There's a saying I heard recently that hit me like a ton of bricks. Some people don't believe the stove is hot until they touch it for themselves. And unfortunately, I see this sort of thing play out all the time with retirement planning. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a big market drop. Large tariffs were announced, stocks sold off, things started looking pretty dicey. The S&P 500 dropped around 12% in a single week, and then, like it sometimes does, it bounced right back. No big crash, no lasting damage. But something interesting happened. Suddenly, as the market was dropping, I had a whole wave of new people reaching out from the channel looking to reduce their risk and build out a clear vision retirement plan, and nearly every single one of them had something in common. They had the same problem. They were way too heavy in stocks for somebody who was only a few years away from retirement. The drop that happened scared them, but thankfully they got lucky. The market recovered quickly. Here's the problem. That was just kind of the warning shot. Next time, folks who are in a similar situation might not be so lucky. So in today's video, I'm going to show you a few things. One, why are so many near retirees unknowingly set up for disaster? Two, the psychology that leads them to that point. Why do they find themselves there? And three, I'm going to give you the steps that you can take to build a smarter, more secure plan if what I'm saying strikes a little too close to home for you. So let's get into it. Let me tell you a story about one of the couples who reached out. Now, I'm going to change things up here a bit, but we're going to call them Mike and Janet. They're both 61 years old. They're planning to retire in about 2 years. They've done a great job of saving about $1.8 million total put away for retirement. But when we looked under the hood, over 85% of that money was in the stock market. Now, during a bull market, that kind of allocation can feel smart. You're riding the wave, your balances keep climbing, and it's easy to think like, hey, we're doing great. We have good investments. That's the issue, because an investment that goes up when times are good doesn't make it a good investment necessarily. But seeing those account balances go up, it does a couple of things. First off, it gives you some comfort that things are going well and that you don't have to worry about your money. And two, it lulls you into forgetting what can happen when things go the other direction. See, while you're working and you're saving, being very stock heavy can pay long-term dividends. Mike and Janet would not have had $1.8 million if they'd have just kept all their money in the bank for all of those years. But as you get close to retirement, you can't stay that way. That's because if you're within 5 or so years of retirement and you're too aggressive, a major market downturn can change your ability to retire. I say it a lot. I'm going to say it again. The whims of the stock market should have no say in whether or not you can retire. If it does, you're likely still investing for growth at a time that you need to start investing for income. So back to Mike and Janet. All that feel-good growth started to feel real bad when the market dropped. They lost over $120,000 in less than a week. Now, when that happened, that caused them to reach out. And in the course of our conversation, Mike said to me, I knew we had a lot of money in stocks, but I guess I didn't realize how exposed we really were. That was his hot stove moment. And it only clicked because they touched the stove and they got burned. Now, thankfully for them, the market recovered and the scare provided no lasting damage to them, but it did provide them a wake-up call of what could happen and how that could change a retirement that they had worked and saved for almost 40 years. So that begs the question, how does this happen to smart, successful people? It's not a knowledge problem. That's the thing. It's a behavior problem, and it's rooted in 3 things. First off, recency bias. When the market's been good for a while, we assume it'll continue going well. That's just human nature. If you've been rewarded for staying in stocks, you're likely to continue to stay in stocks, even when the risk gets higher. Nobody sends you a certified letter reminding you that as you get closer to retirement, you need to change how you're investing. And so for a lot of people, they just keep on doing what they've always done without actively thinking about what that can mean. Second up is what I like to call accumulation thinking. Most of us spend 30 plus years building wealth. And when we're doing that, growth is the goal. And when that's all you've known, it's really hard to flip the switch to preservation and income, but retirement is a totally different game. Our financial system is really 2 different financial systems. One while you're working and growing and investing, and another when you retire and you need to use those assets to create income. The problem is that you really have to prepare for system number 2 while you're still in system number 1. You're in the growth phase, and a lot of people linger there a little too long, which leads them to the risk of potentially being burnt. The third reason, it's the false confidence that comes from quick recoveries. This last dip bounced back pretty fast, but not every drop does. There are times when it takes months or even years to recover. And if you're still hanging out in growth mode and one of those strikes, it could mean pushing back retirement or living a much less abundant retirement. Or you simply plow ahead with the plan anyway, which could lead to selling assets in a down market to generate income. And that really is when the worst of the damage can happen. Now, I want you to think of your financial life here like flying a plane. And in this example, that makes retiring the landing the plane part of the flight. Back when the plane was taking off, in this case, when you were first starting out, the plane needs power to get cooking, to get off the ground. You got to start saving at that point, putting away money. Got to get this thing airborne. During the flight, you need altitude. These are your working years. You're saving money. You're investing for the future. You're watching the balances grow. Okay to be very aggressive in this time because you're trying to get more and more altitude. Get those balances up. Now, think about the landing part. You don't just land a plane by dropping out of the sky at full force and hope for a smooth landing. During the landing, you need control. You need to reduce the speed. You have to start to come down under control all the way to the runway, continuing to slow until you arrive safely at your destination. Most retirement portfolios, even for folks who are getting close to retirement, they're still flying at full speed into retirement with no landing plan. This is exactly why we build 3-bucket retirement plans to help segment your assets and wall off your growth assets, the stuff that's most prone to fluctuation, from the money that you need to use to build your retirement paycheck. Now, this isn't a 3-bucket plan video. I've got a lot of them. I'll link one at the end if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. But in the meantime, here are a few things you can do if you're within 5 years of retirement and you're worried about a market drop hurting your ability to retire well. First off, you got to know what it is that you've got. Don't just look at the account balances. Look at what's inside the accounts. How much of your portfolio is actually in the stock market? Most investment platforms, Fidelity, Schwab, places like that, they've got a portfolio breakdown tool that'll tell you that information. Or you can use a free tool like Yahoo Finance. If you're over 60% in the stock market and you're within 5 years of retirement, you might be overexposed. And that doesn't mean that you need to panic, but it's a sign that you've got to reevaluate your strategy to make sure that you should still be that aggressive. Step number 2, know your income gap. How much income in retirement will come from guaranteed sources like Social Security or pensions? And then how much will you need to spend every month? What's it take to live the retirement that you want to have? The difference between those two numbers, what you'll have coming in and what you'll need to have going out, is your income gap. And that determines how much pressure you're going to put on your investment portfolio. The larger the gap, the more work the portfolio has to do just to keep the train on the tracks in retirement. As a good rule of thumb, if you're relying on your portfolio for 40% or more of your retirement income to close that gap, those market losses can hit a lot harder. And that means that you need a smarter strategy to generate steady, sustainable income in retirement that is not subject to market drops. Step number 3, match your investments to your retirement timeline. Money you need in the next few years should not be in volatile investments. So ask yourself this question. If the market dropped 20, 30, 40% next month, would I still be able to retire on time with the retirement that I want? If the answer is no, you don't have an investment problem, you have a planning problem. Now, if this recent market dip shook you up a bit, even if it didn't cause long-term problems, or if you're not even sure how much risk you're actually taking, now's the time to act. We help people within 5 years of retirement build personalized income plans so they can retire well, even in a volatile market. Check out the first link below to see how a Clear Vision retirement plan can help you land the plane in your retirement. Now, as you approach retirement, the market losses hit differently. And that's because you've crossed into that new stage of financial life, oftentimes without even realizing it. Without proper planning, those market losses could force you to make some tough decisions, could make you work longer than you wanted to, or force you to cut back on the fun go-go years while you wait for the recovery, or worse, if you just continue to plow ahead, risking running out of money before you run out of time in retirement. But most of the time, those losses don't come out of nowhere. They give you a warning, a little flash of heat before the real burn sets in. This last dip, I don't have a crystal ball, but that might have been your hot stove moment. You touched the stove, but you got lucky and you lived to tell the tale. Don't wait until the next time to do something about it. Assess what you have going on right now and make sure that the market's not going to dictate your retirement to you. If you found this video helpful, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, come back, see us another time, and then after you click the subscribe button, check out that deep dive on building a 3-bucket retirement plan designed to help you get the most out of your retirement right over here.